AIDS brings a response
Fight
from the
against
government.
AIDS, the disease which claims life.
Welcome to AIDS Are Lost Voices with me, William Hampson. In this series, we delve behind the stitches into the UK AIDS Memorial Quilt. Together, we'll journey through the names and personalities commemorated on this immense tapestry. These deeply personal stories reveal the profound human experiences lovingly stitched into every quilt. Ready? Let's go. The Names Project AIDS Memorial Quilt, also known as the AIDS Quilt, is a poignant and powerful reminder dedicated to celebrating the lives of individuals who have died from AIDS-related complications. Conceived by the activist Cleve Jones on the 27th of November 1985 during a candlelight march in San Francisco, the inspiration arising from a visual of signs bearing the names of loved ones taped to a federal building resembling a vast patchwork quilt. Officially launched in 1987 by Cleve Jones alongside Mike Smith and a group of dedicated volunteers, the quilt provided a vital means of remembrance at a time when many victims of AIDS were denied traditional funerals due to the stigma and discrimination. Each quilt panel measures 3 by 6 feet to symbolise the size of an average grave, serving both as a tribute to those lost and a broader statement in the evolution of memorial design. The quilt distinctly honours and celebrates the lives of people affected by the AIDS pandemic, offering family and survivors a tangible space for mourning and memory. The quilt made its first public appearance on the 11th of October 1987 during the Second National March on Washington for lesbian and gay rights, where it was displayed on the National Mall. At the time, comprising of 1,920 panels and covering an area larger than a football field, 48 volunteers ceremonially unfolded the quilt at sunrise. Participants then read aloud the names represented in the quilt, establishing a poignant tradition followed at subsequent displays. The event attracted 500,000 visitors that weekend, underscoring the profound impact of the memorial. As of 2020, the AIDS Memorial Quilt in America is accessible online, featuring 50,000 panels with nearly 110,000 names sewn into them, continuing its role as a powerful tribute to those lost to the AIDS epidemic. And as we'll come to learn, it was around 2 years later, around 1989, when friends, family, lovers and loved ones started to stitch their own dedicated quilts here in the United Kingdom. One of the earliest, but by no means the first article that I could find in the UK newspaper archives was when some of these first panels went on display in Wandsworth, London, where the Harrow Observer on the 9th of August 1991 reported. An exhibition of panels from the AIDS Memorial Quilt, made by people from all over the world, was displayed in Wandsworth earlier this month. The quilt, which was used as the backdrop for the AIDS Telethon Hysteria concert to be shown on Channel 4 in the autumn, commemorates the lives, loves, memories and bravery of all those who have died of AIDS. Set up in the States in 1987, the Names Project now incorporates over 14,000 individual panels. According to the UK organiser, Alistair Hume, there are now 26 panels in Britain, and they are, quote, coming in fast and furiously. The project has done so much good, he said. It is now running in 19 countries around the world. Everywhere the quilt is displayed, it raises money, educates people, and gives those who have made panels emotional support, end quote. Anyone who is interested in making a panel should contact the Names Project on, and the article includes a UK landline number. And above the article in the Harrow Observer is a photograph of Alistair Hume seated beside quilt number 2, an evocative panel accessible on the AIDS Quilt UK website. Just visit aidsquiltuk.org, where the full UK AIDS Memorial Quilt can be explored. While the original Names Project in the United States amassed approximately 13,000 to 14,000 panels by the late 1980s, in the UK, friends, family, partners and lovers were only beginning the heartfelt process of designing, threading and stitching their own panels to commemorate those lost to AIDS. This act of remembrance and craftsmanship at all levels stands as a powerful testament to personal loss and collective memory. But how were we remembering those who had passed due to HIV/AIDS in the UK before the formation of the UK AIDS Quilt? Well, the press archives show that newspapers up and down the country reported on community gatherings and vigils dedicated to honouring those who had lost their lives to HIV/AIDS, reflecting a growing public recognition of the epidemic's human toll. These acts of remembrance were vital in fostering awareness, compassion and political momentum during a time when stigma and silence around HIV/AIDS was prevalent. One example of this was in the Westminster and Pimlico newspaper on the 8th of December 1988, where they reported, actor Simon Callow, Labour Treasury spokesman Chris Smith, AIDS workers and school children all opened their hands, setting free 1,000 brightly coloured balloons in the bleak December sky. This moving tribute was the highlight of a worldwide day of action to commemorate those who have died from AIDS. Balloons were also launched in Paris, Barcelona and Edinburgh at the same moment. The Launch for Life, held last Thursday in Hyde Park, was organised by the Terence Higgins Trust as part of London's contribution to World AIDS Day. The day began with music as the Sylvia Young Children's Choir sang a number, Don't Let Life Get You Down, specially written for the event, which was an upbeat, almost celebratory occasion that avoided the doom and gloom commonly associated with the disease. The lives of those who have died from AIDS were also commemorated in the park with a display of a section from the Names Project quilt, a massive memorial to the AIDS dead from all over the world. The complete quilt, made up of 6 foot by 3 foot panels, each inscribed with the name of an AIDS victim, currently totals more than 10,000 panels, and when displayed in Washington, D.C. last month, it measured more than 6.5 miles long. Can you imagine? Quote, each balloon represents not a statistic, but a human life, said Dr. David Miller, a consultant psychiatrist at the Middlesex Hospital. He described how the human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, affects more than those infected, creating major problems for the people who look after them. Quote, in the future, we will be looking at how we can help carers and loved ones cope with HIV, he said. We're not talking about victims or sufferers, but people, men and women who are living with AIDS, said Terence Higgins Trust Chair David Campbell. Quote, we are here in a spirit of solidarity with people throughout the world who share our concern. For AIDS is a health issue for everybody on this planet. Unlike human beings, the HIV virus does not discriminate. It is not prejudiced. End quote. Earlier in the day, the Bloomsbury Health Authority held an open day to show the ways it is tackling AIDS and HIV infection in central London. A second AIDS ward at the Middlesex Hospital is due to open in a year's time, as the 12-bed Broderick ward, opened last year by the Princess of Wales, is already stretched to the limit. Improvements to the genitourinary clinic facility at James Pringle House and University College Hospital are also planned, as is a community healthcare centre at the present Soho Hospital for Women. The Day of Action was also marked by fundraising events with donations for AIDS charities collected at most West End theatres. World AIDS Day took place amid a mixture of good and bad news about the disease. On the positive side, scientists last week reported encouraging results from a trial at St Stephen's Hospital of a new AIDS treatment which kills the virus without causing any harmful side effects. But a government-sponsored report warned that the spread of the HIV virus among heterosexuals is increasing rapidly as safer sex advice is ignored. Dr. Tony Pinching, a leading AIDS expert at St Mary's Hospital Medical School, warned against the ostrich-like attitude of heterosexual men and women who refuse to accept that they are at risk. Few new cases of HIV infection are being seen among gay men who have shown a significant change in sexual behaviour, he added. Wow, and that's 1988, yet the gay plague label stuck around for a little bit longer. Anyhow, in the early days of the UK AIDS Quilt, panels created by loved ones were submitted to an organisation in Bournemouth, after which Alistair Hume in Edinburgh was one of a small group to start the UK Names Project and generously offer to house the panels in Edinburgh, Scotland. These panels were then meticulously stitched together to form 12 foot by 12 foot quilts, each comprising 8 individual quilt panels. According to press archives, the panels toured the UK, either individually or in small groups, appearing at various events such as fundraisers, churches and cathedrals. Their purpose was dual: to raise funds for local HIV charities and support groups and to educate communities about the risks associated with HIV/AIDS. This culminated in one fundraiser that seemed to be the first and last major event that the entire UK AIDS quilt was on display, the Crusade Walk for Life, on Sunday the 5th of June 1994. The Westminster and Pimlico newspaper advertised the event as a community-wide effort to raise awareness and funds for the fight against AIDS. Participants were encouraged to join a walk through central London, aiming to unite people from all walks of life across the entire United Kingdom in support of those affected by the epidemic. The event highlighted the importance of solidarity and ongoing support, marking a significant moment in the local movement to combat the disease. That advert read, "Walk for Life, the Quilts of Love display, a 10-kilometre sponsored walk. The money raised by Walk for Life in London is pledged to the Crusade Hardship Fund, which operates countrywide, offering immediate relief to those people suffering financial hardship as a result of HIV and AIDS. The walk will finish in Hyde Park at the exhibition of the AIDS Memorial Quilt. The quilt is possibly the most moving testament to the tragedy of the AIDS epidemic, and anyone who sees it cannot fail to ask themselves what they can do to help. By joining our sponsored Walk for Life to the Quilts of Love display, you will be making a personal and practical contribution to the battle against HIV and AIDS." And that Walk for Life in 1994 was the 5th and final annual Walk for Life, because within a year or two, the UK AIDS quilt was boxed up and it's reported was left to languish in a cupboard at George House Trust in Manchester. Untouched for nearly 2 decades, it was then discovered, and upon inspection it had sadly deteriorated due to neglect. Then in 2013, Siobhan Lanigan, having discovered the quilt, was determined to preserve its significance as a commemorative piece, honouring those who had lost their lives to HIV/AIDS. And collectively they rallied a coalition of 7 UK HIV support charities. Together, they formed a partnership dedicated to finding a permanent home for the quilt, conserving it and ensuring it could be displayed publicly as often as possible. This renewed commitment allowed thousands, including myself, to witness the entire UK AIDS quilt fill the Turbine Hall for the first time since Hyde Park in 1994, making a powerful moment of remembrance and solidarity. The size of the quilt, coupled with the time and effort invested into crafting these quilts of varying skill levels, is both fascinating and deeply moving. Each panel composed of names, whether a forename, nickname or full name, personal possessions, emblems of favourite things and sometimes photographs, serves as a poignant memorial to the individual it honours. And as an observer it is difficult not to be drawn into a quiet reverie, wondering who they were, what paths they walked and how life treated them. The quilt stands as a tapestry of stories, stitched together with care and remembrance, inviting reflection on the lives behind each lovingly made quilt. Yet, metaphorically speaking, some stitches are missing. So, I took it upon myself as someone living with HIV to seek out the missing threads of a backstory, a biography, or perhaps even a full identity, doing so with a deep sensitivity to the individual being memorialised. In 2025, whether by intentional action or design, they should no longer be forced to hide behind their forename due to the stigma and prejudice that marked their time. This pursuit is not only an act of remembrance but a reclamation of dignity, allowing their legacy to stand fully visible and free from the shadows of discrimination and shame. And this first quilt that really stood out to me just left me wondering, who was Roy? And what kind of a life had he led? And I'll describe the quilt panel for you, but you can also view it for yourselves on aidsquiltuk.org, and in the search box you can type Roy or you can type quilt number 9. It is a striking 6 foot by 3 foot piece made from a metallic silver lame fabric with a photograph of a man at the centre, flanked by photographs on either side with borders of silver sequins. The panel is decorated with red AIDS ribbons scattered throughout and 2 brown silhouettes of cats positioned either side of the central photograph. On the left, the photograph captures the man climbing into a gold car on the driver's side, while on the right, he is pictured in what looks like an airport with the plane tails lined up behind him while leaning against a railing, wearing light denim jeans and a white t-shirt. Adjacent to this image is a cluster of red streamers, seemingly crafted from tissue paper, one with a handwritten note in silver ink. adding a deeply personal and poignant touch to the panel. And I'm guessing Roy must have liked silver, because in silver sequins, centred, the panel is dedicated to, quote, Roy, 12/8/1960 to 31/10/1992, end quote. And the dedication, written on one of the red streamers, as best as I could make out, reads, quote, in memory of my, quotation marks, friends who died of AIDS, Richard, Villagers Club, Roy, Bulldog Tavern, Ken, John, Eddie, Paul, rest in peace until we meet again, from Roger Harris, end quote. So, as the sun streamed through the Turbine Hall and Roy's panel glistening in silver, I was intrigued. Who was Roy? While standing next to the quilt in the TATE, I looked closely at Roy's panel, hoping, as with others, to find a description or a biography derived from the supporting information that was often submitted along with the quilts. But there was nothing. The silence around his identity was as palpable as the fabric itself, a quiet testament to the many stories left untold. So, with my Jessica Fletcher hat on, I was determined to learn more about Roy and his life and discovered the following. Roy Brian Astle, A-S-T-L-E, was born on the 10th of August 1960 in Manchester, contrary to the 12th as stated on the panel. He was the fifth of 9 children, born to Brian Oswald Astle and Jean Oliver. His siblings included Adrienne, Paula, the twins Brian and Kim, himself, followed by Jean, Paula, and additional twins Colin and Wendy, who were born in the spring of 1971. Tragically, their father, Brian Oswald, passed away on New Year's Day in 1971 at the age of 35, leaving Roy, then just 10 years old, to grow up without his father. Given many of Roy's siblings have since passed away and others have been hard to locate, I then turned to the newspaper archives to see if I could find out more about the family and Roy, to which I unearthed a series of articles that appear to show that Roy's life had become somewhat complicated by an event that turned tragic. The reports detailed a devastating accident that no doubt dramatically altered the course of Roy's life. The Manchester Evening News on the 10th of August 1983, Roy's birthday, ran the headline, Accused Barman's Curfew, where, they report, stringent bail conditions have been imposed on a 22-year-old barman charged with inflicting grievous bodily harm. Roy Astle of John Nash Crescent, Hume, appeared in Manchester and was released on bail until September the 20th, on condition that he lived with relatives in Earlham. Manchester stipendiary Mr. Derek Fairclough also ordered him to report 3 times a week to the police and to stay at home between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. A surety of £500 was also required. Astle was charged with inflicting bodily harm on Michael Ashcroft last Sunday. Reporting restrictions were not lifted. Then, on the 20th of September, the Manchester Evening News reported, remanded. Roy Astle, aged 22, of Cutnock Lane, Earlham, was today further remanded on bail until October 19 by Manchester City magistrates, accused of unlawfully inflicting grievous bodily harm on Mr. Michael Ashcroft. Then, 10 months later, on the 3rd of July 1984, Roy's trial begins, and the Manchester Evening News run the headline, Death Fall After Male Lovers Row, where, they report, a man plunged to his death from the balcony of a Manchester flat after rowing with his stepson, who was also his homosexual lover, Manchester Crown Court heard today. Michael Ashcroft, aged 34, died the following day from head injuries he received in the fall from the 5th floor of John Nash Crescent, Hume, last August. The stepson, 23-year-old Roy Astle, denies manslaughter. Mr. Jonathan Foster, prosecuting, alleged that Astle had struck Ashcroft a blow on the thigh while Ashcroft was crouching on the edge of the balcony during an argument, causing him to fall. Quote, the prosecution does not say that the defendant intended his death or intended serious injury, but we do ask you to consider whether this man is guilty of manslaughter, he told the jury. Mr. Foster said, quote, Michael Ashcroft and Roy Astle were both homosexuals. They had a relationship together for some years. For the last month they had lived together in this maisonette in Hume. The dead man was in fact the defendant's stepfather, having married the defendant's mother about 2 years ago, although that marriage was very short-lived." End quote. Assel, so Roy, Assel told the jury that Ashcroft's marriage to his mother never had the remotest chance of success. Quote, "As far as I can make out, it was to try keep some kind of hold over me," he said. After the marriage broke down, Assel and Ashcroft began living together. On the day of the fall, he said both men had been drinking, and a row had developed over Assel's birthday party. Ashcroft went onto the balcony, knife in hand, taunting Assel. Assel told the jury, quote, "I tried to grab him by the belt, but he moved, and I hit him on the leg, and he fell." End quote. And the article concludes with proceeding, meaning the trial continues. Oh, it just sounds terribly sad. And the trial does continue because the following day, the jury only take 2 hours to come to their decision. The Manchester Evening News on the 4th of July 1984 ran the headline, "Stepson cleared of gay killing." Nice to see they're not over-sensationalising the story, although it's incredibly sad. However, they go on to report, "A man accused of causing his stepfather to plunge 70 foot to his death during a homosexual row was cleared of manslaughter at Manchester Crown Court. The jury took more than 2 hours to acquit 23-year-old Roy Assel. Assel of John Nash Crescent, Hume, denied unlawfully killing Mr. Michael Ashcroft, aged 34, who lived with him and died hours after falling from a 5th-floor balcony last August. The court heard that Ashcroft had once been married to Assel's mother, but the men had had a homosexual relationship for some time. It was alleged that during a row at their flat, Ashcroft began taunting Assel and jumped from one balcony ledge to another. The Crown claimed Assel then struck Ashcroft on the leg as he crouched on the ledge, causing him to fall, although it was accepted it was not his intention to cause death or serious injury. But Assel in evidence said he had intended dragging Ashcroft off the ledge when he moved towards him, but his stepfather suddenly slipped and fell. Oh, it's just incredibly sad for both men and both families. You know, one man's lost his life and the other one, just aged 22, 23, is on trial for manslaughter. But in between those articles, the family of Michael Ashcroft placed an obituary in the Manchester Evening News on the 20th of August 1983. Subsequently, on the 11th of January 1984, the family, no doubt still grieving, placed a birthday announcement in the Manchester Evening News, a poignant reminder of their continuing sorrow. Ashcroft, Michael James, died August the 8th, 1983. We never said goodbye, but there's never a day gone by that we don't think of you, your loving brother Randy, sister-in-law Janice, gentle Jesus, up above, please give Uncle Michael all our love. From Mark and Paula. Given Michael passed away on the 8th of August and the trial reports indicate he died the day after falling, it is likely that the men had, as Roy stated, had a disagreement on the 7th of August 1983 concerning Roy's birthday party, scheduled for a couple of days later on the 10th of August. Michael's decision to jump onto the ledge of the balcony 5 floors up while intoxicated tragically proved fatal. The incident is made all the more heartbreaking by the fact that Roy testified the disagreement stemmed from a petty dispute over birthday arrangements. It is equally devastating for Roy, who not only witnessed Michael's fall, a man he clearly loved and lived with, but also endured the anguish of a court trial where he was accused of manslaughter as a result of his partner jumping onto the ledge of a balcony while intoxicated and allegedly wielding a knife. There is no telling when Roy decided to move to Brighton from Manchester, or whether this was his own choice, or perhaps he'd been made to feel unwelcome by either Michael's family or even his own. Yet this life-changing event may well have been the catalyst for leaving Manchester and starting afresh elsewhere, in Brighton. Despite extensive research and attempts to connect with those who might shed light on Roy's life there, little is known. Curiously, Roy's panel on the AIDS quilt perhaps offers a deeper glimpse into his life in Brighton. It features 3 photographs. The central image is a headshot of Roy, smiling broadly, clutching a glass in what appears to be a pub setting, likely the Bulldog Tavern, referenced by the note on the streamers present on the panel. Another shows him stepping into a gold car on the street, lined with Victorian villas, a characteristic scene from Brighton. These candid snapshots suggest moments of warmth and community, hinting at a life lived fully, even amid the challenges that Roy had faced. And the third image was positioned too far from the edge of the quilt where I stood, but I believe it showed Roy clad in stonewashed denim jeans and sand-coloured boots, his legs crossed casually as he leaned against a railing. The setting resembled an airport, with rows of aircraft tails stretching into the distance, evoking a sense of impermanence and movement. Roy wore a plain t-shirt bearing a bottle green slogan across the chest, his hands clutching a brown purse-style man bag. The overall impression was slightly camp, hinting either at a playful facet of Roy's personality or perhaps revealing to us a soft, gentle and caring side to this young man. These moments of happiness captured in these images, unbeknown to Roy, were to be his last. Roy celebrated his 32nd birthday in Brighton on the 10th of August 1992, and less than 3 months later, on the 31st of October 1992, Roy Brian Assel passed away at his home. His death certificate records his address as Flat 1, Thorndale, on the ground floor of a high-rise tower block on Albion Hill, Brighton. It is likely that, as his health declined due to the later stages of AIDS, Roy was relocated to the ground floor flat, as was common, to accommodate his increasing needs around mobility as his AIDS diagnosis worsened. Roy's occupation is marked by a dotted line upon his death certificate, despite earlier references to his bar work during his time while living in Manchester. Considering Brighton's well-known vibrant gay scene, abundant with pubs and bars, it is plausible that Roy was no longer able to continue working as AIDS progressively affected his health. The presence of John Stevens, who lived at a different address in Brighton, but noted on the certificate as, quote, present at the death, end quote, confirms that Roy did not die alone. Rather, he had at least one close friend or companion in John Stevens, or a small circle providing companionship and care in his final days. The cause of death is documented simply as, quote, 1A lymphoma, end quote, a term that aligns with numerous medical studies between 1985 and 1992, linking increased lymphoma cases in young men and women across America and Europe directly due to HIV/AIDS. As I mentioned earlier, many of Roy's siblings have since passed away. I reached out to John Stevens, named as the informant and present at the time of Roy's passing, but not yet received a response. Additionally, Roger Harris, who left the message on the streamer on Roy's panel and may have been the person who created the panel in memory of his dear friends, including Roy, sadly passed away in Brighton in 2023. In lieu of flowers, donations were requested for the Sussex Beacon, a long-established HIV charity based in Brighton. Roy's quilt stands as a lasting legacy to his memory, commemorating a man of 32 years whose life was tragically cut short by AIDS. Though his time was brief, he was deeply cherished by those who cared for him in his final days and by those who, after his passing, meticulously crafted a quilt in his memory. The quilt serves as a poignant reminder that Roy existed, embodying resilience amid tragedy and a life surrounded by friends and love after moving to a city where he initially knew no one. Notably, his panel lacks his full name, an omission that history suggests may have been deliberate, reflecting the fear and prejudice surrounding HIV/AIDS in 1992, and the desire to protect Roy in death as they did in life. Alternatively, it may simply be that Roy Brian Assel was known and remembered intimately by those closest to him, and those who knew him simply as Roy. The UK AIDS Memorial Quilt, rescued from a cupboard in Manchester, is now cared for by a partnership of dedicated HIV charities. However, it urgently requires a permanent home where it can be properly housed, conserved and displayed, not only as a moving memorial to those it represents and the many more who have died due to HIV/AIDS, but also as an educational resource for future generations to understand the profound impact of the AIDS pandemic. This vital work comes with considerable costs, and the custodians of the UK AIDS Memorial Quilt are seeking donations to help secure its future. If any of the panels in this series have moved you, or you want to be part of a legacy in securing the future of the UK AIDS Quilt, then please support their mission by donating at aidsquiltuk.org. That's AIDSquiltuk.org and click their donate button. They've not asked me to tell you this, I'm telling you. Your donation will give voice to the unheard, the silenced, and those often shunned and overlooked by family, friends and society. Through your donation, the past is reclaimed and justice is sought in the very act of remembrance. So go on, don't delay, donate today. That's quite catchy, isn't it? We'll keep that bit in. Quilt 21, which you can also view at aidsquiltuk.org and click Explore Quilt, is home to Andrew. The panel measures 6 foot by 3 foot and is designed portrait style, featuring a white fabric base delicately overlaid with fine pink netting that lends it a textured, almost baby pink appearance. The background is richly decorated with a scattering of ink stamps in vibrant shades of red, orange and yellow. Among these, one stamp resembles a stem with leaves and berries, while another presents an intricate symbol or animal that remains indistinct. Adding to the complexity, the name Andrew is repeatedly hand-inscribed in green ink, creating a layer and intriguing visual effect. In purple lettering at the top, the quilt is dedicated to Andrew, 1971 to 1993. Beneath this, 2 gold necklaces and a ring adorned with a deep red stone are carefully displayed, symbolising both personal significance and an enduring connection. Stitched behind individual pink-netted pockets lie a cassette tape, an envelope inscribed with Andrew, and a purple and burgundy friendship bracelet, each item whispering stories of memory and companionship. Completing the tribute is a white moon crest and red AIDS ribbons. In hand-cut and individually stitched fabric letters reads as follows. Don't be dismayed at goodbyes. A farewell is necessary before we can meet again. And meeting again after moments of lifetime is certain for those who are in love. I miss you so much. Many panels are accompanied by letters explaining the significance of the panel's design, along with a brief biography of the individual being memorialised. In this instance, Andrew's panel is paired with a letter detailing the personal meaning behind the imagery and colours, providing insight into his life and legacy. This letter, which can also be viewed on aidsquiltuk.org, offers a poignant tribute that helps viewers connect more deeply with Andrew's story, reflecting both his identity and the broader impact of the AIDS crisis. It reads, A.J. Shotai, Balliol College, Oxford, March 1994. Please find enclosed 1 panel for the AIDS Memorial Quilt in memory of Andrew and a letter about him. Andrew died of AIDS in April last year. I am his lover. Neither of us were openly homosexual and hence the relationship was very secretive. Andrew's parents were not very supportive when they found out about his sexuality and of his illness. Due to the shame they felt towards their son, they have requested that his full name not be revealed. I have promised them that I would not. Hence, I am not including my lover's full name. However, if for administrative or legal purposes you still require a surname, please use mine and refer to him as Andrew Shotai. I made this panel in memory of my first and only love, Andrew. I met Andrew in Oxford, where we were both students. It seemed that fate was pushing us together. I was not out, and neither was he. So, what started off as an innocent friendship, with the friendship band on the panel his first gift to me, soon bloomed into a passionate, secret and loving relationship. Andrew was very good looking, had a fantastic body, was very funny and incredibly randy. There were very few days in our 2-year relationship when he didn't want to make love. At this point, neither of us knew that he had the wretched virus in him. Andrew was also very sensitive, caring, emotional and selfless. It is difficult to put into words all that he gave me. He loved books, and this love is just one of the things that he passed on to me. The quote on the panel, "Don't be dismayed at goodbyes," is adapted from one of his favourite books, Illusions by Richard Bach. Every time that I would become sad and heavy-hearted about his impending death, he would hold me in his arms and say, quote, "AJ, do you love me?" My answer was always, and still is, yes, yes, yes. Quote, Then we will meet again." End quote. He used this quote to overcome his fear of death and overcome the fact that he was leaving me behind. It is so full of hope. It meant a lot to us. He would never have forgiven me if I had lost my hope. Andrew adored the moon in all its glory, hence the moon on the panel. Gazing at the moon on a clear night, romantic walks in the moonlight, and writing poems about the moon were some of our best times together. Because neither of us were openly gay, we often had to meet in tucked-away places at night. The moon was our only companion through all this time. I clearly remember the full moon midnight walk when he became very frustrated with the situation. I was going on about what we could do in the daytime, the places we could visit, etc. He interrupted me and asked, quote, "AJ, why are you dreaming all this? You know we can't meet during the day." Hugging him tightly to myself, I said, quote, "Andrew, look at the moon. I promise you that we will be together every night to watch the moon." Little did I realise that there is no moon on the new moon nights. Usually the dark moonless night happens once a month, but since the day that Andrew left me, our moon has set for good. My love and passion for music rubbed off onto Andrew very quickly. On the panel, I have put an audio tape of some of his best loved songs that he used to listen to all the time. These were also used at his cremation service. He also adored blood red roses and tulips. I knew that he would melt into my arms if I bought him blood red roses. On the panel, I have sewn on the ring that he gave to mark our first anniversary. The two chains, one his and one mine, were also gifts to each other. They were together when we were alive, and thus they will still remain. During Andrew's illness, I wrote numerous letters to him. Unfortunately, the last one, with my last poem to him, remained with me. I never got the chance to give it to him. I have put it on the panel in the hope that maybe he will read it. Andrew, I love you so much. You will always have a special place in my heart. You gave and taught me a lot, but you forgot to teach me how to forget and how to live without you. I miss you so much. AJ. Oh, how incredibly moved. I can't tell you how many takes it took me to get that. Every time I read it, I can't help but turn into a blubbering wreck. But if you have, like me, got the tissues out, then don't put them away, because I'm afraid it doesn't get any better. Because life takes an unexpected turn, if not sad and cruel turn, because within 4 weeks of AJ submitting his panel in tribute to his first and only true love, Andrew, the national newspaper, the Daily Telegraph, on the 8th of April 1994, reports, "A student at Oxford University was found dead yesterday, a few weeks before taking his final examinations. Mr. AJ Kumar Shotai, 22, from Kenya, was studying engineering and economics at Balliol College. Police said he was believed to have taken an overdose of tablets. His body was found next to a bag of pills at his room in Holywell Lodge, near his college. The number of student deaths at Oxford in recent years has led the university authorities to improve counselling services for undergraduates." And sadly, on the same day, the national newspaper The Express reported much of the same, with additional insight. Pill overdose kills student. An Oxford University student has been found dead in his room 8 weeks before he was due to sit his finals. Kenyan AJ Kumar Shotai, 22, died from a drug overdose. A bag of pills was lying near his body. There was no suicide note, and his body may have lain undiscovered in Balliol College for several days. He had not been seen since Good Friday. Shotai was studying engineering and economics, and he appeared to have no problems. His apparent suicide follows a spate of student deaths in 2 years. Oh, do you know, it's incredibly sad, and I'm not sure about you, but as the Express reported just there, AJ appeared to have no problems, perhaps suggesting he was not worried about his exams beyond the usual nerves. However, considering the timing of submitting his dedicated quilt for Andrew, it is clear AJ was carrying a heavy emotional burden, losing a lover in the way that He lost Andrew, taken by HIV/AIDS, and then having to navigate the disapproval of Andrew's parents regarding both their relationship and Andrew's sexuality must have weighed heavily on AJ. The letter AJ wrote accompanying the quilt that he lovingly made for his lover revealed how deeply he missed Andrew. It is reasonable to suspect that AJ's own death was influenced, at least in part, by the profound grief he had endured. And from a fabric memorial to a plaque, Balliol College, Oxford, commemorated AJ with a memorial plaque placed beneath the rose bush in the Quad Gardens. The plaque bears the heartfelt inscription, AJ, you will live in our hearts always, 1971 to 1994. As for Andrew, AJ did state in his letter attached to the quilt that, quote, Andrew's parents were not very supportive when they found out about his sexuality and of his illness. Due to the shame they felt towards their son, they have requested that his full name not be revealed. I have promised that I would not, end quote. This was a promise made by AJ, and from the letter it appears less of a promise and more of a demand. Either way, it has been over 30 years since AJ submitted the quilt, and times have undoubtedly changed. Society is now far more accepting. It is my view that 3 decades on, Andrew, known only by his forename, resembles turning the final page of a book, only to find the ending has been torn out. Having a full name attached to the story of Andrew's quilt reminds us that he was a real person. He existed. He was whole, and albeit posthumously allowing him to experience the freedom that was denied to him in the 1990s, given the homophobia, stigma and ignorance. Andrew has nothing to be ashamed of, nor should his identity diminish the act of remembrance or the rightful celebration of his legacy and recognition. However, although I have made advances in my research, I remain committed to approaching the subject with the utmost respect and caution. As always, I am still verifying details to ensure accuracy before considering whether to share them with you. For the time being, through AIDS Quilt UK, we have been able to hear the poignant story of Andrew and AJ Shotai, honouring their memory and contributing to the broader understanding of their experience. In a sad twist of fate, the AIDS quilt AJ created for Andrew stands as a poignant testament of their love, immortalising the story of 2 lovers separated too soon. This quilt not only serves as a symbol of enduring love and resemblance, but also as a powerful reminder of the human toll of the AIDS crisis by those infected and affected. Through its vibrant fabric and heartfelt design, it honours Andrew's memory and the bond that they shared, offering a lasting tribute that speaks to both personal loss and collective hope. Now, in the quiet reflection it inspires, there is a sense that AJ and Andrew are reunited, united forever beyond the constraints of time, ignorance, and fear. If you have been affected by AJ's story, you can contact the Samaritans here in the UK by calling 116 123 or emailing jo at samaritans.org. For those listening outside the UK, it is important to reach out to your local support provider. While this series aims to connect with those who personally knew and remember the individuals honoured on the AIDS quilt, in the hope of uncovering deeper stories and memories of a life lived before the quilt, this final panel is one such instance where, despite extensive research, the trail grows faint and the details become elusive. Quilt 13, which you can view at aidsquiltuk.org, displays the quilt dedicated to Elaine. The panel features a landscape design, tie-dyed pink leaving white rings in the background. The name Elaine is stitched in a navy blue ribbon, and at the top of the final letter E, a red AIDS ribbon is pinned. Handwritten in black are the dates March 1969 to March 1994, spanning a quarter of a century marked by a quiet significance. Above these dates, the phrase, quote, "The innocents and the beautiful have no enemy but time," a poignant quote from the Irish poet W. Yeats, drawn from his poem in memory of Eva Gore Brown and Con Markovich. This coupling of words and numbers evokes a contemplative reflection on the passage of time and the inevitable fading of innocence and beauty, underscoring the effects of an AIDS diagnosis. I then turned to aidsquiltuk.org to see if there was a biography, a document, a letter submitted with a quilt for Elaine to understand who Elaine was. Although I did find Elaine's full name in a December 2023 We Remember You tribute, this only came at the end of my research and confirmed that my initial research was sound. Through a little further investigation, I attempted to uncover more about Elaine's life and the impact she had had, hoping to piece together a fuller picture of her story beyond the memorial quilt in her memory. Elaine Grieve was born on the 29th of March 1969 in Bellshill, Strathclyde, Scotland, to Moira Craigton and Gavin Grieve. She was the youngest of 3 siblings, with an older sister Kim and an older brother Paul. After leaving Scotland, Elaine joined her sister in Islington, London, just around the corner from me actually, where Elaine worked as a waitress. Elaine sadly passed away on the 16th of March 1994, aged only 24 years old, with her sister Kim by her side at 11 Lyndhurst Gardens, in the London borough of Camden. This address remains, to this day, the home of the Marie Curie Hospice. Elaine's death is recorded as resulting from acquired immune deficiency syndrome, more commonly abbreviated to AIDS. 9 days after Elaine passed away, a notice appeared in the Scottish newspaper, the Lanark and Carluke Advertiser, marking her passing and commemorating her life. Elaine Grieve, aged 24 years, much-loved sister of Kim and Paul, sister-in-law of John, daughter of Gavin and Moira, passed away peacefully on the 16th of March 1994 at Eden Hall Marie Curie Hospice. Cremation took place on Saturday the 19th of March 1994 at Golders Green Crematorium. We wish to thank all Marie Curie staff, family, relatives and friends. A special thank you to Kim and John for all the love, kindness and care they gave her. A light has gone from our lives, Mum. And I did find out that Elaine's mother Moira did sadly pass away in March 2022, and I also did find and reach out to Elaine's older sister Kim, who is only a couple of years her senior, with an invitation to share more about Elaine, who no doubt was a vibrant young woman with everything to live for. I was also keen to learn more about the making of Elaine's panel, hoping to gain insight into her life and the creative process behind the quilt. However, I am yet to hear back. The AIDS quilt, also known as the Names Project, serves as a powerful memorial to those who have lost their lives to HIV/AIDS. Each name stitched into the fabric represents far more than a mere label. It honours a life filled with the same ordinary moments that we all experience. Christmas, celebrations, birthdays, weddings, as well as the routine struggles like workplace pressures, unexpected expenses and fractured relationships. Every quilt panel memorialises not only the individual but also the battle that they fought, often in isolation, even despite the support of loved ones, against a society that frequently ignored, marginalised or feared them for merely living with HIV/AIDS. Their names embody real people with emotions and stories, deserving of empathy and recognition. Even today, a stigma surrounding HIV/AIDS persists. It is their quilts, their names, their stories that remain vital in honouring their courage. We are reminded that their collective voice holds a moral authority rooted in lived experience and sacrifice, compelling us to listen, learn and amplify the need to end HIV stigma. And for that, we remember them. You can view the newspaper articles mentioned in this episode on the Extra T blog. And if you'd like to keep up to date with the UK AIDS Memorial Quilt, and don't forget make a donation, then visit aidsquiltuk.org. You can find all the links in the show notes. Until next time, don't forget to like, share and subscribe.